I was married to my first wife for approximately 9.5 years when I commenced employment with the local sheriff's office as a deputy. As I was attending the academy, I was at home more often than usual, as classes were only held between the hours of 8 o'clock and 1700 hours. Upon completion of the academy, I resumed my shift work at the local jail. My schedule entailed working the night shift, which commenced at 12 a.m. After a period of hour shifts, I began to experience a sense of unease. My wife was spending an increasing amount of time with the pastor's wife, engaging in activities such as sewing and crafting. Additionally, I was required to alter my sleep schedule due to my off-duty status. Despite sharing a bed with my wife, I was unable to sleep. Instead, I proceeded to the restroom and observed a text message on her phone at midnight. The message was from the pastor, and it read. The pastor was of the opinion that it must have been an emergency, so I picked up the phone and read the text. It read, "Good night, my love." I attempted to locate other messages, but she had deleted them. If the messages had been sent in error, the older messages would have been saved. I woke her up at 1 in the morning to inquire about the messages. She essentially stated that it must have been a typographical error and that I should not have been viewing them. I was snooping. In response, my wife turned the tables on me and became defensive, kicking me out of our bedroom for a period of 18 weeks. I was under a great deal of stress and lost 35 pounds in a month. I was unable to eat or sleep and felt like a basket case. I sought counseling as recommended by the pastor. My wife required me to apologize to him for even thinking that anything was going on between us. She was reluctant to engage in counseling, citing her desire to avoid any appearance of impropriety. After a month and a half of this, I discovered her diary, which had been kept in a state of unguarded secrecy. Her phone, too, had been similarly protected. When the situation finally came to a head, I read how she and he were in love. Furthermore, I discovered that they had been concealing their relationship from her, which led me to conclude that she was being untruthful about her feelings. I approached her and informed her that I had read her diary and that she had been unfaithful to her husband. She was visibly shocked and immediately expressed remorse. She stated that she had never intended for the situation to escalate and that she had never meant to hurt me. She then urged me to contact her husband immediately to discuss the matter. I demanded to meet him the following morning. We met at a local fast food restaurant. I arrived with my phone in my pocket, ready to record our conversation. I had the consent of both parties to record the conversation, which is legal where I live. He admitted to the inappropriate relationship. He was a hypocrite, as he regularly preached against infidelity and how he would not. I advised the woman to seek counsel on her own, as she was concerned that others would misconstrue her actions. I allowed the man to speak for a sufficient length of time to provide me with evidence. I was enraged, as this was the most challenging situation I had ever faced. I attempted to maintain my marriage, but I believed that the infidelity continued. I relocated to ensure the security of my employment, as I was concerned that my wife might otherwise discover my whereabouts. He attempted to fabricate a domestic violence incident, which would have resulted in my dismissal. Members of the congregation inquired about my whereabouts for an extended period. They were provided with false information, which they subsequently discovered. As a result, he resigned from the church he had founded 25 years prior and began working in the fast food industry. In my 50s, it took years for me to finally process this experience and move on from it. However, it has significantly impacted my ability to trust others, particularly individuals in positions of authority, such as religious leaders. I share this not to cause harm but to provide a platform for others to read and potentially gain insight. I hope that my experience can offer some measure of support to those navigating similar circumstances. My ex-partner's life fell apart while mine has never been better. I am a 25-year-old male who was in a relationship with my ex. The girlfriend, whom I will refer to as Jess, is a 24-year-old female. We were together for 4.5 years. We met at university. She was in my business management class. We were assigned to work on a major project together, and we quickly developed a strong connection. After we completed the project, I asked her out and she accepted. Our early years together were characterized by a deep sense of intimacy and mutual understanding. We rarely argued. Furthermore, there were no arguments between the two. They communicated clearly and openly with each other. The author of this text believed that the relationship would last forever. He was saving up to buy her a ring. However, during the last half year of their relationship, she began to grow distant and was constantly making excuses as to why they could not hang out together as much. Both of them were out of university and had begun working full-time. I had assumed that this was normal behavior. It should be noted that we were not cohabiting. However, it did not take long before she began to decline sexual intimacy, citing a lack of interest. My partner and I have a high libido and we typically engage in sexual intercourse at least once a day. I always used a condom and she was on the contraceptive pill because neither of us was ready to have children. One evening, we decided to spend the night at her place. I attempted to initiate sexual intimacy, but she declined. This was extremely frustrating for me and I voiced my frustration. The situation caused her considerable distress, but she simply stated that she was not at ease with her physical appearance at the time and requested some space. When the topic of initiating intimate relationships arose, I concurred and we both retired to bed, or at least she did. I had an intuitive feeling that something was amiss, so I accessed her phone once she was asleep. I am aware that this action may be perceived as inappropriate, but I do not regret it. I discovered that she was engaging in sexual activity with her boyfriend, who was also her instructor at the Academy of Learning, IAL. I obtained messages, images, and videos of them together. The videos were disturbing and elicited a strong negative emotional response. The subject's actions and statements appeared to be devoid of any meaningful content, and I felt a sense of contempt towards her. When she was asleep, I experienced a profound sense of revulsion. I took screenshots of the messages, including the other images she had sent, and deleted them. I did not send the videos as I was unable to bear the thought of doing so. Instead, I took whatever belongings I still had at her apartment and removed them from the premises, taking them out to my car. I returned to my apartment the following morning. She called me to inquire about my whereabouts, and I provided a brief, plausible explanation that she accepted. To provide some context, I will introduce you to one of my close childhood friends. For the sake of this example, let us refer to her as Julia 20. Julia and I were close throughout our childhood and adolescence. Her brother and I are also friends. They live a block away from my parents' home, where I grew up. Approximately 1 year after I began dating Jess, I returned to my hometown for my cousin's wedding. I began spending time with my old friends, including Julia and her brother. On the night of the wedding, she told me that she had feelings for me. I rejected her advances. I informed her that I was already in a relationship. She was understanding and apologized. After that, we did not converse as frequently. I did not wish to give her any indications that I was interested in a relationship with her, as I was in a relationship with Jess. She was fine with this and understood it without issue. She does not use social media, so the only way we could communicate was via messages. During that time, I took a great deal of photographs of us socializing together were also shared. I returned to university approximately a week later and informed Jess of my whereabouts and the company I kept during my absence. She was interested in seeing who I had been with during my trip, and while we were scrolling through images, a photograph of me and Julia appeared. She began to inquire about her and who she was. I had already informed her that she was a childhood friend of mine. During the course of the trip, she revealed her feelings for me, but I rejected them. I then presented her with the text messages as evidence. She appeared to accept this decision. Approximately 1 year later, during a minor disagreement, she informed me that she was experiencing feelings of insecurity regarding her body. She stated that her feelings of insecurity had been exacerbated by images of Julia, which depicted a slim figure and a sense of physical beauty. I attempted to reassure her, but I believe that ultimately, she never fully recovered from this incident. To return to the narrative, I sent a message to my parents in my hometown, requesting permission to stay with them for the following week. I informed them that I had some important matters to discuss with them, which initially caused them some concern, but they ultimately agreed to my request. I had been telling Jess that I was going to visit my parents, as I had not seen them in a while. She did not express any particular interest in this development. I proceeded to meet with my superior at the workplace to discuss the situation in detail. I requested a temporary leave of absence, and my superior granted me the necessary time to address the situation. I subsequently made my way to the location during the weekend to inform my parents of the developments. They expressed their profound disquiet at her actions. My mother, in particular, made it clear that if I were to reconcile with her, she would not permit her to reside with us. I assured my mother that I had the necessary self-assurance to handle the situation. I then contacted Julia to request a conversation. I informed her of the information that had been revealed about Jess. I am uncertain of the exact sequence of events, but I believe that, at that moment, a multitude of emotions overwhelmed me, resulting in a profound outpouring of tears. These were not solely due to the loss of a loved one, but also because I had invested a significant amount of time in a relationship that ultimately proved futile. Julia was a source of solace throughout my emotional distress. After a period of recuperation, I was able to regain my composure. We proceeded to consume beverages and engage in leisure activities, including playing Mario Kart, until approximately 2 a.m. At this juncture, we were both inebriated to a considerable extent. I was unable to return to my parents' residence. She proposed that I stay the night, and I accepted. We proceeded to her room, where we engaged in sexual intercourse. Just before removing our clothing, she instructed me to retrieve my mobile phone and begin recording. We proceeded to engage in sexual intercourse on numerous occasions that night. Throughout our sexual encounter, Julia vocalized derogatory remarks. Regarding Jess, she was considerably more adept at the act than the aforementioned individual, who was of a less refined nature. After our previous encounter, I ceased recording and retired to bed. The following day, I awoke to the aroma of breakfast being prepared by Julia, and we partook of the meal together. I inquired as to her motivation for recording our nocturnal activities, and she replied that she wished to exact retribution. I had never explicitly sought vengeance against Jess, yet Julia's actions indicated a familiarity with my character. I would be inclined to seek retribution for her treatment of me. She advised me to send her the audio file from the recording and terminate our relationship. She informed me that she still harbors feelings for me and will await my resolution with Jess. I informed her that I could not guarantee her anything, and she was satisfied with that response. We subsequently took our leave, and I returned to my parents' residence. They expressed concern and inquired about my whereabouts. I informed my parents that I had been spending the night with Julia, who was simply catching up with me. My parents expressed relief, but as they prepared for work, my father's demeanor indicated a degree of skepticism. I proceeded to download the video from my phone and edit it to include only audio and a black screen. Once this was complete, I spent the remainder of the weekend socializing with friends and engaging in leisure activities. I also spent considerable time with Julia, and it is possible that we engaged in sexual intercourse on a few occasions. I informed my superior that I would be returning to work in approximately a week. He said that was perfectly fine. I then texted Jess, informing her that I was aware of her romantic involvement with her former partner. I sent her all the screenshots from my final message to her, which read, "Treat me like a game, and I will show you how it's played." I also attached the audio of me and Julia engaging in sexual intercourse. I then blocked her. Over the next few days, I received numerous spam calls and messages. I received numerous messages from our mutual friends and her family. I sent them all the screenshots of the text messages that I had, and there was no response. Her parents called me and apologized for their daughter's behavior, and that was the end of it. I am now 1 year later, and I recently celebrated my 26th birthday with my family and girlfriend of close to 1 year, Julia, who is now 22. I have recently been promoted at my work, and Julia has recently taken up residence with me, and will be graduating in a little over a week. She transferred to the same university I attended for her final year. I have a regular exercise routine, and I am now 5 feet 11 inches and 165 pounds. I was always quite thin during my childhood. I have never felt prouder of myself, and I feel genuinely cared for in ways that I have never experienced before. I have also learned that my former partner experienced a significant crisis after he terminated the relationship after discovering that she was pregnant with his child. Her former partner, who was responsible for the pregnancy, subsequently ceased all contact with her. I was not the biological father due to my lack of involvement with her during the time of conception. She underwent an abortion, which has had a detrimental impact on her mental health, leading to an alcohol addiction. The video I sent her has exacerbated her body image issues, resulting in the breakdown of numerous relationships. I consider myself to be the one who got away, and she represents the most significant obstacle I have ever faced. I still harbor resentment towards her because those 4.5 years we spent together are irretrievable, and I am unable to regain them. However, I am currently experiencing a period of immense personal fulfillment. My advice to anyone who has been the victim of infidelity is to avoid settling for a partner who does not respect you. The world is your oyster. Seize the opportunity to live your best life. Before you go, I kindly request that you take a moment to subscribe to my channel. It only requires a single click of a button. Thank you.